Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Emma Vigeland went on CNN on this Abby Phillip's roundtable program. Her and Sam have been popping up on this more often, getting a couple jabs in. These things move pretty quickly, as well as Abby Phillip's doing a fair amount of kind of cutting the conversation short, mostly just for time. That's how these things go. Everybody gets a little bit shafted. I've noticed it happening to Emma and Sam in these recent conversations, but they also get their talking points off pretty clean and come across pretty naturally for the most part. Although it's a weird environment and they're often around weird people. I mean, sitting across from Emma Vigeland in this instance is Neera Tanden, who was a person who was in the Obama and Hillary Clinton world, sort of a political advisor. Particularly Hillary Clinton was very influential over like that era of Democratic politics, to the extent that you could call it that. The era that almost was, but definitely wasn't. And Jeff Flake is a former senator in the Republican Party, as well as their normal kind of cast of randos, including Scott Jennings, who is their longtime conservative rage baiter, who sucks. And they say they can't get rid of him because he has a contract. But I mean, if they wanted to get rid of him, they totally fucking would. They would just eat the cost or whatever, find some reason to fire him. They obviously don't want to get rid of him because they like having a troll on there like that. So that being said, one of the things they talk about here is Jasmine Crockett making her run for the Senate. She announced she's going to be running in a primary campaign, and it's been pretty controversial since she said that she's going to do that, not just amongst, Republicans and Democrats. There's a lot of people in various parts of the Democratic Party that don't necessarily like Jasmine Crockett that much. So I want to get into all that later, and I think this conversation is a good doorway into that. So here's Emma Vigeland debating a little bit with Jeff Flake and Neera Tanden about Jasmine Crockett.
First of all, Emma, your thoughts on this video, an opening salvo in this race, and the decision to run?
I think that she has a right to use as a tax as something in her favor. There obviously, when Trump talks about low IQ, he's usually referring to women of color. It's a frequent racist trope that he engages in. So she's trying to change that kind of narrative and put it in her favor. But I will say that I would have preferred an ad that talks about what she wants to do for the for Texas and for the people there, and a policy platform. There's a concern, in my view, that there's a lot of focus on Jasmine Crockett and less necessarily on what she's advocating for. But I want to see what she stands for. So the jury's out for me on Jasmine Crockett. If she supports things like Medicare for all, if she supports things like ending the funding of the genocide in Gaza, if she supports things like, taxing the rich and all of that, I am going to be in favor of it. So it all depends on what her policy platform looks like.
I mean, I guess I'd say the job here is actually to win a Senate seat in Texas. It's not to win the primary. It's if you actually think democracy is at stake and you really think oversight of Donald Trump is really important, then the Texas Senate seat is really crucial. And it could well be the defining race on whether there's a Democratic senator or not. So I think the voters of Texas have to decide who can win the general election, not who makes us feel good.
Neera's right. You have to build a coalition that includes independents and Republicans to win there. And I doubt that she can do that. And so I think it is a gift to Republicans. So if I were her, I would continue to do ads like she just did, rather than talk about policy prescriptions, because my guess is that's not what Texas wants.
Can you name one of her policy positions that she's talked about that she's a champion for?
Oh, Medicare for all, I think, is something she would like.
Taxation by race.
But I will say that, I mean, if your theory is correct, then it just helps James Tallarico, because a competitive primary is going to have them duke it out, and they're going to determine what is better for the people of Texas, and they're going to be able to hash these ideas out and train off of one another. That's why competitive primaries are good, and it's a lesson the Democrats
on the topic of Jasmine Crockett, Emma says that she seems to support good things, but the jury's still out. I kind of agree with this. She's had a decent voting record and made some made some definitely interesting political commitments in terms of what she believes in. Emma references Medicare for All here. Definitely heard some chatter that she supports Medicare for All. In some instances, I can't find anything concrete about her saying that. I think she may have co-sponsored a bill about it at some point that didn't go anywhere. So she's definitely in that camp and has spoken about healthcare being a human right, etc., although Biden did the same thing when he went into office. The main concern for me going forward with any Democrat is corporate money, PAC money, and APAC money. And that's where Jasmine Crockett gets a little bit fuzzier for me. She has been pretty supportive of Israel overall and has not been bold when it comes to Palestinian rights or speaking against Israel's government, although she has done that to some extent. She did not vote for the measure to censure Rashida Tlaib, but she also never called for a ceasefire officially, and so just pretty careful with her language on that. But at the same time, she's never taken APAC money, at least on the record. Can't find anything about her taking money from APAC, although other PACs related to healthcare and whatnot are a different question. I just don't think she's as averse to taking corporate money as I think a Democrat needs to be in order to gain the type of grassroots support that's going to be needed to defeat Republicans, especially in tough places like this Texas Senate seat. So there's an argument to be made that there's a different strategy that needs to be done there that is going to be more of the centrist type approach, trying to reach out to more Republicans and independents and whatnot. I mean, I think that's kind of a dead strategy, especially with Jasmine Crockett. The only way Jasmine Crockett or anybody in the Democratic position in a general election there is going to be able to build the type of coalition that can kind of win over that seat. Clearly, there's a lot of attention on that seat in particular from both sides, and I'll get to that later. The only way a Democrat's going to be able to do it is by having a bold message that captures what people in general want to hear right now, because people are willing to coalesce around that type of message, specifically when it comes to economics. And I think in Texas you might have a harder time when it comes to rhetoric about expanding certain programs and also on the issue of immigration. But at the same time, I think that the economic message that people like Zohran Mamdani was able to really articulate and that Trump gestures at with consistent success is policy that promises to put more money in people's hand and to try to focus things on that, to focus the economy on that and the economic approach on that so that you have more spending money and more freedom. And coming up with specific policies that are designed to do that are tailor-made to whatever the district or place or a certain constituency that you're running for is able to see in their real lives. That's going to be the winning strategy. So Jasmine Crockett, I think, is a little bit overly focused on the aesthetic of fighting Trump and being able to, meet Republicans on that level. She has gone viral for clips of calling Marjorie Taylor Greene a bad-built butch body or something. It's hilarious. She's funny as fuck. She has a lot of personality. There's a pretty scathing Atlantic article about her recently that kind of paints her as being overly focused on that to a sort of a narcissistic degree. But it is true that she is capturing a lot of attention within the Democratic Party right now and is a pretty potent force. My concern is that it's more about that for her than it is about the economic approach. Or at least so far, she's found that has been the more successful approach for her. So a primary, would be a good chance for her to see how much real resonance that message has when it comes to winning a very competitive primary. Emma Vigeland is right here on the CNN panel that it's good to have primaries and Democrats benefit from having primaries, but at the same time, that's just not how the party works, right? They're protecting the power that they have, and a primary system fundamentally goes against that, which, by the way, any progressive socialist, democratic socialist, whatever, that gets into power through the Democratic Party or otherwise is going to have the exact same problem. I need to protect my power, not be sponsoring the type of contest that might knock me out of power. So the robust primary system is something that has to be forced. They have to be forced to have primaries. And so the narrative that's emerging is that this is the perfect person for Republicans to run against, and they want her to run, and they think that they can beat her easily, so they propped her up. There's information now that there were efforts behind the scenes at the National Republican Senate Committee to boost her campaign with polling efforts and with also literally advocating online to try to get people to call in to Jasmine Crockett's office and tell her that they think she should run. Meaning an AstroTurf effort aimed at people who do in fact support Jasmine Crockett and like her videos or post about her online or whatever, encouraging people like that to call in and promote her for Senate. So the thing about that to me is that while they are doing those type of efforts behind the scenes, it's also only based on the fact that she's already popular. Voters do in fact like her and are in fact excited about her, and so that's the reason that they're able to boost her up in that way. And as far as the polling stuff goes, they ran polls. Essentially, the National Republican Senate Committee was the one that ran polls to include Jasmine Crockett in them because she wasn't being included in polls. And when she was included in them, she was doing well because she was well known. So in other words, before she was in consideration technically for this primary, the Republicans were adding her to polling to see how she would do, and she was doing well. And that is part of the impression that she got, that her polling was, going in the right direction, and there was a trend that she should be in the Senate race. And she even said herself that that was something that encouraged her to get into the race. So again, I think that's weird, and there's definitely a conversation about the fact that Jasmine Crockett might be the type of candidate that could be easy for Republicans to run against. But at the same time, this effort is based on her popularity. And that's exactly the type of thing that Hillary Clinton's campaign was doing for Trump, because they were like, well, this person can't win. Of course they can't win. So we have to boost them. We have to boost the buffoon so that we can easily beat him. That's exactly the same strategy that supposedly Republicans are doing. Now, it might be true that she's easy for them to run against, especially in Texas. We all know why. Racism, sexism, it's an easy tool for them to use. And I think the fear is that she would do well in a Democratic primary and then lose in the general. That's where I say that is only based on her platform. I think she absolutely could win that Senate race, just in my opinion. I don't think that she can't win because of all the racist and sexist attacks that she would get, but she would need a message so powerful that it breaks through that. And I think that just has to come back to economic messaging, and it has to be bold. You know what I mean? Like that's the main thing here, is that you have to let people know that you're willing to take risks politically. You're willing to say something that is unpopular with the system, but popular with the people, so that they can feel electrified, no pun intended, about what you're willing to do. And that will excite people. And especially if you can connect that with concrete policy, then you have a winning campaign. And like I said, that can be tailored to any place in the country. It's just a matter of examining what are the specific costs that people are burdened with in that place. And I think a lot of Democrats think that they can mount that type of powerful message purely on the sort of resistance narrative, but then a more like responsible incremental governance type of proposal under that. So the resistance liberal fighting bravely against the fascist to protect the liberal incrementalism is pretty much the Democratic pitch that we're going to see, because they actually did pretty well with that pitch in some cases in this recent election. And so to me, that's the fear, is that we get Democrats who are fighters and they're strong and they're feisty, but they're not actually proposing anything that is going to send the alarms off in people's heads, that like, this is a change, this is a new direction, and not just us swinging back to the Democratic Party, which at this point people don't really believe stands for anything. And so the idea of going back to the Democratic Party as an answer to Republicans is something that a lot of those coalition voters, Republican independent coalition voters that they're talking about, they're not going to be willing to vote for anybody who's on that side of the spectrum unless they're offering a vision that's a little bit new and fresh feeling, and a way to change the status quo that will benefit people's lives. I think Jasmine Crockett can offer that. And if she is refusing to take money from places like AIPAC and hopefully continues refusing money from different corporate sources, then she can be convinced to take some of these bolder positions that will be electrifying, because she's a great communicator. So if she takes the right positions, she could be the perfect person to be running. But I think she has pretty careful instincts, but I haven't seen her, when it comes to taking the swings that she does very well, I haven't seen her do it so much on substantive policy. It's more so on just being able to fight the Republicans at their own game with their own rhetoric, push back in an unapologetic way. And I think that's valuable, but it's not enough when it comes to like really standing up to Trumpism or whatever.
Me too close to, too much to do. The mission is too crucial. Shout it out from the rooftops until I lose vocals. Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity.